Hello, this is John Majori with Majori on Bowie, and this is the Majori on Bowie YouTube channel, where I have a new interview every week that always has something to do with David Bowie. And for daily content, visit the blog, www.majorionbowie.com, where I have new content every single day that almost always has something to do with David Bowie. And today I have none other, as a guest, none other than Carlos Alomar. And if you're on this channel and you don't know who Carlos Alomar is, I think you stumbled on the wrong channel. But stick with it, it's going to be great. Carlos is David Bowie's most prolific collaborator, having appeared on more Bowie albums than any other artist. He started playing with Bowie in 1975 on Young Americans, and has performed on 32 gold or platinum records, Bowie and otherwise. He's played with everybody. He is the only human being in the history of the universe to have co-writing credits with David Bowie, Mick Jagger, John Lennon, and Iggy Pop, amongst others. Until recently, I would have said, I've been listening to Carlos Alomar play guitar for the last 40 years, until I saw the excellent documentary about his lifelong friend, Luther Vandross, Luther Never Too Much, where I learned that he and Luther were on the house band for Sesame Street. And in the early 70s, I wasn't into Bowie yet, but I was really into Sesame Street. So I've been listening to Carlos play for my entire life. Carlos is married to another great Bowie alum, Robin Clark. He teaches at the Stevens Institute of Technology, and he continues to make music with top artists. But to the point of today's interview, he is also just about to launch the Back to Berlin tour, honoring the D.A.M trio, featuring original member George Murray, as well as another great Bowie alum, Kevin Armstrong, and the archivist and video editor Nacho. I mentioned Kevin and Nacho because they've both been guests on this show before, and other musicians that we're going to talk about. I will post the dates of the European tour, because I know a lot of people watching this are going to want to go. I'll post them on the video, and I'll post them on the blog. And I'm just scratching the surface. If I just kept talking about everything Carlos has done, then we're not going to be able to hear from Carlos. And I really want to hear from Carlos. So Carlos, thank you. I'm so delighted that you're joining me today.
I was just about to say goodbye. Well done indeed. Thank you for the accolades, and thank you for the quick bio. Well done.
Yeah, thank you for the music. So I want to get into the tour and the D.A.M trio, but let's just sort of set the stage a little bit. You relatively recently get off Young Americans, which included Bowie's first American #1 hit, Fame, that you John Lennon and Bowie are have the co-writing credit for. The next year, you're working on Station to Station, widely regarded as one of the greatest albums of all time. And then he hits you with Low, which, like, with all these years later, it sounds natural, but at the time, it's the first of the Berlin Trilogy. It had to seem like a departure.
Yeah, it was a departure, but let's go back and not think about who we are now, but who we were then. You got these 20-year-olds going into the studio. When you go into the studio, you really don't know what you're getting yourself into. Now, let's not forget that we're really talking about a different aspect of recording. When we went into the studio, forget about Brian Eno.
Yeah.
Remember that the A side had all the rock and roll stuff, and the B side is the one that had all the other stuff. And then when we first started, there might have been 3 songs or 4 songs on the B side. So when we started as the D.A.M trio, we were really there to make our mark.
Yeah.
You know, we had gotten together to do Iggy Pop. And so the Berlin Trilogy has to actually include Iggy Pop, because when we were doing the Idiot and stuff, we had Bowie brought us in. And, here it is that the trust factor really kicks in when you have this quote unquote black rhythm section, although I'm Puerto Rican, doing Iggy Pop.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus, that's just so far from Young Americans, anything else, or Station to Station. And so what we find is by being thrown into the deep end of the musical pool, we actually survived. And we didn't just paddle. We really got in there. We swam on the water. We did the whole 9 yards with Iggy Pop. So to be called in for now the brand new album with Bowie, we were really excited. And so
Yeah.
when we started, we really started on the rock and roll stuff. And so it didn't really impact on us about what Brian Eno was doing at all.
Yeah.
We get into this situation where Brian Eno wants us to do something. And the first impactful thing that we have is that the methodologies. Now, what we should remember is that innovation, it has really nothing to do with technology or equipment. It has to do with methodologies. So
Right.
here comes Brian Eno's strategy cards, the oblique strategies.
So what I know what that is, but explain to somebody who doesn't, what are the oblique
Oblique
strategy
strategy
cards?
cards are cards that you're able to, you shuffle them, you pick one out, and it says something. And this notion allows you to take subjectivity and release your mind from the problem that you have and think of coming at it in a totally different way. What
Yeah.
happens if you pick up a card and the card says, do nothing for as long as possible? What the hell's that got to do with I'm playing guitar? Brian Eno is asking me to do something, and the next thing you know, I pick up a card and he says, just follow the instructions on the card. And the card says, do nothing for as long as possible. I mean, you're in a quandary in a way because you really don't know what that has to do with anything. Another card might simply say, you just returned from the war. What the hell's that got to do with well, I picked one up and on a song, I think it was Breaking Glass. I picked
Yeah.
up that one that says I just returned from the war. What did I do? I just hit that guitar hard. One note. Dan, 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 dan. Lately I've been dan, dan. Why? I was angry, man. I came back from the war. I couldn't get a job. Nothing was happening. And so anger was the expression that I used in order to look at that part and figure out what I was gonna do. You got songs like Warzoa, songs that are really lengthy. What does it mean? Do nothing for as long as possible. We're used to a chorus and a verse. 8 bars, I gotta make a change. How long, how long is a symphonic song? That's exactly right. They
Right.
they work on themes. And so
Yeah.
you get these cards that make you another aspect. He goes 1, 2, 3. That's our metronome. 4. There is no click. The metronome is him. And then I come in and he says, hey, Carlos, listen, I want you to play on these tracks that I got with David. Play from 62 to 79. I'm like, what are you talking about? Just listen to it. Visconti only gives me there's 32 tracks. I only hear 3. Just enough to get the pitch and the key. I play whatever I feel would work in that part. I have no idea. Next thing I know, I come into the studio to listen back. He puts all 32 faders in, and I hear this gigantic, and there I am playing my part. Suddenly, it makes sense within the realm of those bars, like 56 to 79, whatever it was. And so these issues of methodologies, that's what we encompassed when we started working with the Brian Eno.
Yeah.
When
So
it's
you're describing a process where you're
a
creating
methodology.
the song in the studio. You're
Yeah.
not coming to the studio ready to perform. You're actually forging the music.
Oh yes, this is
Yeah.
all on the go. This is on the fly. Sometimes David might have a very simple ding 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 ding, and then I would go ding 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 ding. But although I have R&B and jazz, I really don't like to impose those. It's like a piano player. As much as I love it, we always work as the D.A.M trio when we record, and then everybody comes in as overdubs.
Yeah.
The reason is, again, the methodology. A piano player will use all 10 fingers, twang, and with those fingers, he's got leading tones, and it forces the singer to play along those same leading tones. So no piano players, no
Yeah.
10 fingers. Me, I just play a very basic part so Bowie can really hear himself.
Yeah.
And
So
so,
let me stop and just ask two very basic questions for people that might not be familiar. The one
okay,
is the D.A.M trio is not Alomar, Bowie, and Eno. It's
Dennis,
Alomar, Murray, and Dennis
yeah,
Davis, the
Dennis
drummer.
Davis, Carlos Alomar, and George Murray, the basic rhythm section.
Yeah, and you just said something, which is the piano player or other musicians are overdubbed. So your that trio is recording with Bowie, and that's the first piece of music that you're recording. Is that correct?
Exactly right. There's no one else in the studio. Everybody else, after we've done all the tracks and we've laid everything down and gotten the groove,
Yeah,
we have a lot of pockets in there, spaces, empty spaces, a lot of places where there's no full chord, just a
yeah,
basic part. And as David sings, you're able to hear a little something. And here's what we find. A lot of musicians practice, and what they practice sometimes is what they play.
Yeah.
You can't do that. A professional musician has got to listen. And when he listens, he hears a guitarist. Like I'm a guitarist. When I listen, I hear a guitarist playing something. And so now that guitar player is going, "Dun, dun, 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 dun," and then I come up and I go, ding, 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 ding. That's not what I heard.
Yeah.
You practice to play what you hear. You don't play what you practice. Oh, I got this part that I want to play, and the minute I hear your song, I'm going to try to jump in there with this thing that I can do. I mean, that's not what we do. As professional musicians, we have to listen and bring something to it. So as the arrangements go, I can do my arrangements much easier with the trio. And then George Murray and Dennis Davis and I are so akin that when we start playing, we self-correct. And
Yeah.
so when Bowie comes back, when he did dun, 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 we come back and we give him three versions of what he did. And then he goes, "Ooh, I like that one."
Uh-huh.
What you should remember is when you're just playing music and there's no words, you got a groove, but you don't know if that's the chorus or the verse.
Yeah.
Bowie will come in and start singing what you think is the verse. He'll sing it as the chorus.
So you're making this music and you don't even have the lyrics in mind. You don't even know what the song is about, or does that even have any meaning to you, what the song is about?
No, because we only look at the emotional attachment that the chords, once I do an arrangement, chords have a universal emotional attachment. And
Yeah.
if I want you to feel sad, of course, I'll play a minor chord.
Yeah.
Want you to feel happy, I'll play a major. But if I want you to shake your butt, I'll play a dominant seventh. And if I want to inspire you, I'll make all the progressions go up.
Yeah.
If I want to bring you down, I'll bring all the progressions down. If I want suspense, diminished chords will hold you right there until finally he feels like releasing you, and then he releases it. So musically speaking, we work on a totally different plane than what you would assume as a pop song or a punk song. They're pretty linear.
Right.
In the arrangements that I do for the period that I was with Bowie, you'll notice it's really an amazing combination of arrangements that have R&B, jazz, punk, pop. You know, they're not like the Spiders from Mars had a distinct sound in rock and roll. You know, Tin Machine had a distinct sound. Even the jazz stuff he did and even the Black Star stuff, it has a distinct sound.
Yeah.
I am noted for a certain period with a distinct sound.
Yeah.
And that's why I brand myself and I keep myself in my own place. This is what I'm noted for. I don't really, the Spiders from Mars stuff I like, but when I do an arrangement for the Spiders from Mars stuff, it's not going to sound like the Spiders from Mars. That's what happened with Station to Station when we started doing new arrangements and everything sounded, you know, totally. How do you, all those Bowie songs with horns? It was like crazy.
So you mentioned station to station. The method that you're talking about, you're really starting with low. That's not how you did station to station or Young Americans, or am I wrong about that?
Well, we got to understand that subjectively speaking, it's all wrong to me. Look, let's stop praising Station to Station for being some experimental thing. It isn't.
Yeah.
It isn't. You have TVC 15, yeah, Golden Years are on that
Yeah.
album.
Yeah.
The pop songs.
Right.
Wild as the Wind, those are slow songs that are R&B that should have been on Young Americans album.
Yeah.
Anyway, two pop songs, two R&B songs, and then you have, of course, Station to Station. Station to Station is honestly the only true experimental song. And the way that
Right.
that happened was I found out that in disco music, you get paid more if your song is longer than 3 minutes and 27 seconds. And so the introduction to Station is about 3 minutes long.
Yeah.
We got paid double. And when Bowie found out that we can do longer songs, that's why on Station to Station, there's not a lot of songs. Station to Station itself,
Six songs.
yeah.
Yeah.
Those songs were long because we got paid more by longer songs. It's a weird thing, you know. And then we morphed two songs into each other to make it even longer. So direct segues were used to link those two songs together, you see.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, of course, Stay is really John, I'm Only Dancing, where Bowie says, "Hey, Carlos, I love that song. Can you do another arrangement on John, I'm Only Dancing?" And I say, "Sure." And then he says, "Great." Then he goes back and he creates new words. And so when you look at the album itself, the only true experimental part of Station to Station is Station to Station.
Yeah.
Stay is cute, but Stay really is kind of funky, if you really listen to it. I mean, the way that it's mixed with Tony Visconti, they have a different mix, so a lot of the rock and roll stuff comes in. Look,
Yeah.
on this tour, what you'll find is that in the mix, you're going to hear all the other rock and roll stuff a little bit higher in the mix. All the Fripp stuff, all the chords but underneath there, that rhythm section, the stuff they're playing is totally different from what you're actually hearing.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
that's why when you go on tour, you're going to hear the material as it's played from the basic rhythm section first. And then you'll hear the real chords and everything that's actually going on in that song.
Yeah. So you're focusing on the Berlin Trilogy, which is Low, Heroes, and Lodger. Is that right?
Well, in addition to that, we should understand, like you say, we did start on Station to Station,
Yeah.
and we did do Scary Monsters. And so
Right.
it's in my best interest to take the show and really do the trilogy. But then there's the encore, and the encore has nothing to do with the set.
Are you going to give us a hint?
Why would I do that? Yeah. Okay, here's the hint.
Yeah.
There's a limited amount of songs because we're not doing Brian Eno's material.
Yeah.
So eliminate all those slow songs.
Yeah.
There are no slow songs in this set. I
Yeah.
intend because if you listen to the songs on the trilogy and don't do Brian Eno, they're all fast and furious.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna beat you into the ground because there's no slow songs.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to tell you something I've done as a fan, as somebody who listens, that you might just scowl at. But, as soon as we started being able to create mixes on an iPhone, right? I took Station to Station and then the verbal songs on Low and Heroes and then Lodger and then Scary Monsters because there sounds like a continuity there. And right, it's like Young Americans, it sounds like it's very different. And then when you get to Let's Dance, that's very different as well. But there is that continuity from the song Station to Station right through Scary Monsters.
yeah, because the issue has to also become the camaraderie between Iggy Pop, David Bowie, and then,
Yeah,
on the other side, the camaraderie between Eno and David. And so
yeah,
each of these personalities had well, let's call it a limited stay.
yeah,
The beginning, you have the association of Bowie and Iggy as they he helps Iggy, Iggy helps him. They go into the period of, hey, has some ideas, and then they kind of start doing that.
yeah,
The marketing strategies behind calling something a trilogy should also be observed. It is a unique, wonderful perspective that David has, where he can simply say, although Larger is not really in the realm of the experimental and all the other blah 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 that the trilogy is noted for, branding something as a trilogy guarantees a sale of three things. And so
yeah,
I think that as you see the influence of Brian Eno diminishes slightly as the three albums, start progressing, And so what you have is this ability for David Bowie to kind of take a bite of the apple,
yeah,
and it takes three bites. But by the time the third bite is done, he's done with that apple and he's ready to move on to a pear. And so Scary Monsters comes out.
yeah. I want to ask some questions about you. You were with him through so many transformations, but before we leave Low, and we might come back to Low again, but Dennis Davis is no longer with us, and his drumming on that album really sort of set the stage for drumming for like the next 15 years, right? What was he doing? Like the casual observer that doesn't know anything about music might not understand what I'm saying. So what was he doing on Low?
Uh, Dennis,
Yeah.
apart from the material that the Damn Trio did, or you
No, no,
talking
no.
about
I mean, he's playing in a particular way that I think others would start to,
Oh,
yeah,
oh no, no, no. That's a hard one. Look, he had funnel drums.
yeah,
In a technological way, we were always a little bit curious about technology because of being thrown into that deep pool of technology with Brian Eno. And so I started doing 19-inch studio unit racks for the stage,
yeah,
which wasn't done before. Usually they had stomp boxes. Dennis Davis had these fiberglass funnel drums that they start out like that. You hit the drum, it's a very small tom, but then it funnels out into being this. It's like a flugelhorn. It's just like all the drums were like boom, boom, and he had, and it's just like when you see it on stage. So not only do you have the technological aspect of particular drums being brought in, but then you also have the advent of certain technological things that are happening in the studio. So Visconti is able to put certain effects that are not notably done on drums. So where you might have a flanger or a chorus on a guitar, he might put it on the drums. And so you have drums go do 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 do. You're hearing drums flanging and drums being, for lack of a better way of saying it, the first synthesized drums.
Yeah.
Nowadays you can do it with a set of synthesizer drums. I get that, but we didn't have synthesizer drums then. It is the same thing that I did when I know that those little foot switches on the floor, they're cool. But when you get into the studio and you see those 19-inch rack units, the quality, oh my God. And it was exactly the same thing. Once we recorded certain things with electronic enhancements via Tony Visconti or whatever effects you heard, when you go back to stage, how are you going to reproduce those sounds?
Yeah.
Thus, here comes these fiberglass funnel drums, and everybody, what the hell is that? And then you hear do 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 on stage. So it's like which comes first, the chicken or the hen? I mean, the egg or the chicken? In a strange way,
Yeah.
the studio changes the way you perform on stage, and the stage changes the way that you perform in the studio. So it's one of those yin and yang things. And so we take the experiments on stage sometimes. We can't help it. We've been influenced, and the influence doesn't stay in the studio. You expand your mind, you expand your efforts, and then you redefine your efforts. You redefine your purpose by your efforts.
Yeah. So you mentioned playing the distinction between playing in the studio and playing on stage, and I want to sort of circle back to something you said earlier, where you're laying your piece down with the trio before some of the other musicians come in.
Mhm.
So you get the next album after Low is Heroes, and then Fripp comes in, and on stage, I've seen you play with Earl Slick and with Peter Frampton and with Reeves Gabrels, and you've played with other great guitarists, but in the studio, they're recording their part after. Is that right?
That's right. I never,
Yeah.
I never met him.
You never met them.
I never met Robert Fripp. I hope that when I'm in London, I'll be able to shake his hand. And
Yeah.
I think it's important for us to also give tribute to him.
Yeah.
He really made those albums special. I mean, I look at all the musicians that have worked with David Bowie, and I take a little bit from all of them, but Robert Fripp was a special, special addition to his arsenal, and I think that the parts that he brought to light on those albums were stupendous.
Yeah.
So I think enough credit is not really given to him as such, and so, well done indeed. He deserves a lot of praise for what he did.
What's the type of relationship between the guitarists, in making the album or then on stage? Is there a kind of creative tension, or is it really, are your parts so different that it doesn't matter that you're both playing an instrument called a guitar?
Uh, I could put it to you in an egotistical manner, and I think that you might understand that.
Yeah.
Okay, there's only one Robert Fripp. Would
Yeah.
you agree?
Would I agree? Yeah. I mean,
Okay,
absolutely.
there's only one Carlos Alomar. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah.
One is a lead guitar player, one's a rhythm guitar player. In essence, they're compatible. Why? I play rhythm, you play lead.
Yeah.
When he comes in and he hears the rhythm, and the rhythm is not getting in the way, and you've got all these holes, he can play whatever he wants. Why? It's already laid down. We're not working together in the room,
Yeah.
psychologically working together. And so
Yeah.
when you hear all those holes, hey, listen, it's your playground now. And so, left to your own devices, I've always used this comparison, and it makes sense to me. If you had Jimi Hendrix playing on your album, would you tell him what to play?
No.
This is
Yeah.
exactly what Bowie does. He puts me in there. I play what I do. He lets me free reign. I'm sure that when Robert Fripp got in there, he told him, listen to it and play what you play. One take, thank you very much. That's just what I wanted. I didn't even know,
Yeah.
but that's what I wanted. Thank you. That's how fast it goes. When you get people of that caliber, you don't tell them what to play.
Yeah. So you're describing a process, and this is not a surprise that have a different rhythm guitarist and you have a different song, right? So especially in this process that you're describing, where the song is really sculpted in the studio, um, um, the uh, what then makes a song like Fame, a song that you get a co-writing credit for, and then we're talking about a lot of the songs on the trilogy albums where you don't get a co-writing credit. What crosses the line? What makes you a co-writer of a song?
When we go into the studio, you are considered a work for hire. And as such, you give everything that you're supposed to give. There is no co-sharing or anything. Anything you give is the way it
Yeah.
is. What happens if you go in there and the artist has nothing? It's still the same, but here's the difference. In certain rock and roll, you have something that sounds like this. Please play an E chord for 16 bars and then play an A chord. I can't tell you whatever you play, you're still playing the E chord and the A chord. And look, I don't care what you play, just fill it in. But once I tell you the E chord and the A chord are cute, but man, if you go to a G flat and then an E flat and then a flat seven to this and then that and then I do an arrangement, the arrangement is not part of what I do as a guitar player. And so once you depend on me to start
Uh,
doing arrangements,
yeah.
then part of the music, I don't get credit for writing any words. I don't deal with words.
Yeah.
But when you have a substantial, for instance, we're practicing some groove and stuff that I'm working with the band at the sound check.
Yeah.
Bowie comes in and says, "Ooh, I like that," and starts playing around. Yeah. Next thing you know, we get to the studio and he goes, "Hey, Carlos, you remember that groove that you guys were doing during the sound check? Let's try that one." You better give me credit. If it comes out of my mind
Yeah.
or it supplements yours as far as the musical arrangement is concerned, although as your musical, you see, when I'm on the road, I'm your musical director. I do arrangements.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, like,
Yeah,
what you just said you don't do arrangements, but you're the musical director.
yeah, but when I'm in the studio,
Yeah.
am I being called in to be the guitar player or am I
Yeah.
being called in to be the musical director? Well, there is no musical director because there's no music.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
that's called a composer. And so you have two parts of publishing, which is the composer and the writer. And so, under the circumstances, certain songs that are really mine, but I give to him. Um, I had a song called "So Tired of Being Alone," so tired of being alone, so tired of waiting by the telephone, so tired, blah blah blah. It became "Never Let You Down," but it was my song. Luther had a beautiful song called "Fascination,"
Yeah.
but although he liked it and he knew that he can't do it as fascination, so he made it funky music. And so he had to give writing credit because originally that was Luther's song.
The reverse.
Yeah.
Luther's was funky music and
Yeah, yeah,
Bowie's was
yeah,
fascination.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so that's the way, certain writing credits are given that way. When there's a lack of substance and then you come up with something that you were not supposed to and you were asked to, then you can get writing credit. And so you'll find writing credit with some of the musicians that are there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things that happened with Mick Jagger. When I had to do, Mick Jagger, is hanging out with Bowie and he knows that I do all the arrangements. The next thing I know, I'm getting a phone call from Mick Jagger. Hey, I'm doing my first solo album and I don't want to use, any of the Rolling Stones. So I was wondering if you could get together with me. And Bowie was like, sure, because I asked Bowie, hey, Jagger wants me to work with him on some album, his first album. Bowie's like, okay, but be careful. He's a sneaky dog, be careful. And and at that point, that's exactly the same thing. Yeah, you had some ideas, and you came with those ideas, and those songs I don't get credit for. But when you look at "Lucky in Love" and "She's the Boss" and the songs that I kind of said, no, 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 we should do this, and he go, ooh, that's awesome. What else you got? Then you get writing credit, and so
Yeah.
it's exactly the same thing. When you go well beyond what you're supposed to do, and you start influencing the song so it goes in a totally different direction.
Yeah.
I mean, people call that producing. People call it a lot of things, but basically, as long as I get writing credit or music credit, that's just fine.
Yeah. You're the first person to share a writing credit with Mick Jagger other than Keith Richards.
Yeah, I know. I
Yeah,
saw that by Mick Jagger. And
yeah,
it really became something very, very interesting. I mean, look, I've worked with Yoko. My wife Robin has worked with Ringo. I've worked with John and Paul. We know Sean, and I mean, it's a basic musical family. You know what I mean?
right.
And so hopefully, when we get together with these people, there's no intimidation. And so if they feel comfortable enough to take your suggestion,
Yeah.
you know, that's a wonderful thing. And it shows a professional courtesy, I guess.
So I want to ask you a question that you might say I have wrong, and if that's the case, I'll edit it out. Just while we're on She's the Boss,
Mhm.
you have co-writing credits, but am I correct that you don't have credits as a player?
I did not want to. Oh, no way.
Yeah,
Hell, I'm David Bowie's guitarist. I
yeah,
refuse to go on. I gave them all the guitar parts in the demos that I gave them, but I do not want my name associated. You know, and look, here's why. This is a very important milestone in Mick Jagger's career as being the first album, and like you duly noted, without musicians that he's usually associated with, Keith Richards in particular. For me to go in there and perform as a musician, it would be like, oh, he was at the session and he suggested a little something, and that's why he got credit because he was already there as a musician.
yeah,
If I'm gonna write with Mick Jagger as the only writer, I don't want to be a musician. I want only writing credit.
yeah,
For me, that is the biggest accolade that I can get on a Mick Jagger album. Do not perform with Mick Jagger.
yeah,
Write with Mick Jagger and prove yourself to be a writer. But for me to perform with Mick Jagger, I am not going to represent Keith Richards or any other guitar player that you might want to play on that I might sound a little bit like Keith Richards. Hell no.
yeah,
I stay away from those implemented traps.
yeah,
I'm Bowie's man. I'll do you the courtesy of writing like I do with everybody. And look, every time I do an album with Bowie, if you go on allmusic.com, you'll see I've done 4 albums with 4 other people. It's not just Bowie. So I
right.
don't mind working on people's albums by writing and performing. But in this particular case of Mick Jagger, I wanted the writing credit only.
Yeah, yeah.
It makes
So
it makes sense to me that way.
yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.